So today we'll be looking at a question from the attempt of November 2023, paper 41, and this question is tested from the topic of budgeting. Let's read the question over here. It says that P Limited sells one product, and to prepare the cash budget for the 3-month period ending on 31st January, the management accountant provided the following information. Okay. So in point number 1 it says that P Limited has a markup of 50% on all sales. Okay. Then point number 2 we are provided with the data of sales. So for the month of September and October we have actual sales, and for the next 3 months we have budgeted sales. Further it says that 10% of the sales are on cash basis and the remaining are paid 2 months after the sales, and it is estimated that 2% of the trade receivables will be irrecoverable. Okay. Further it says that all purchases are on credit and P Limited is allowed to pay 2 months after the purchase. However, P Limited pays 1 month after purchase to get a cash discount of 1.5%. Okay. Then it says that it is a policy of P Limited to maintain an inventory level at the end of each month sufficient to meet 40% of the sales of the coming month. Okay, so while we are making purchases for the current month, we'll also be making some purchases to meet the sales for the upcoming months as well. All right. Then it says that depreciation and other operating expenses total $131,000 each month, and the other operating expenses are paid in the month in which they are incurred. So one thing to keep in mind over here is that this operating expenses is also inclusive of the depreciation, and we all know that depreciation is a non-cash expense. So we might be adjusting this amount. Further it says that plant and equipment are depreciated at the rate of 15% per annum using a straight line method, and all plant and equipment were bought 3 years ago for $124,000. So we are provided with the data for the calculation of depreciation. Then in point number 7 it says that the cash at bank on 1st November 2024 would be $95,000. So we are also provided with the opening balance of the cash over here. Alright, let's look at the requirements over here. So in part B we are required to calculate the cash budget for the months of November, December and January. So let's just quickly draw a format over here. So we have the months of November, December and January, and the opening balance over here would be $95,000. Alright, so let's just simply record all of the cash inflows and outflows accordingly, and we'll be calculating the closing balances as per that. So for the inflows we have sales over here, and about sales it says that 10% of the sales are on cash basis. So this means that of all the monthly sales, 10% of each month's sales would be received in cash in the same month. So let's record that. So we have cash sales, and for 10% of each month, so we have 39,000 in the month of November, 45 in the month of December and 37,500 in the month of January. So we have 39,000, 45,000 and 37,500. Further it says that the remaining customers pay 2 months after sales, and it is estimated that 2% of the trade receivables will be irrecoverable. So what we have to do over here is that let's say for the in the month of November we'll be receiving 90% of the cash of the sales that were made in the month of September, but 2% of those sales will also be treated as irrecoverable. So if I have to calculate this amount, what I'll do is that I'll take 360,000, multiply it with 90%, and then whatever the amount is, I will take 98% of this amount. So I'll multiply it with 0.98 or 98%. So 360,000 into 0.9 This comes up to $324,000, and 98% would be 317,250. Sorry, 520. Okay, so credit sales, and we have 317,520. Then for the month of December, we'll be recovering the credit sales from the month of October, so it would be 420,000, 90th% of 420,000, and we'll multiply it with 0.98 as well. So this should come up to 378,000, and then we'll multiply it with 0.98, so this would be 370,440. Then for the month of January, we'll be recovering the sales from the month of November, so it would go as 390,000 multiplied by 90%, which would be 351,000, and then multiplied by 0.98 to adjust the irrecoverable debts. This would come up to 343,980. 343,980. So we are done with the adjustments for the cash inflows, the sales over here. Let's move on towards the purchases for the month. So over here we do have to calculate the amount of purchases over here, and one thing we can do over here first of all is to find out the purchases for each month. And how are we supposed to do over here is that we are provided with the amount of sales, and we are also given, the examiner has also provided us with the markup as well. So let's just jot down the months over here. We have September, October, November, December, and January. And we have sales, so let's calculate the cost of sales accordingly. The cost of sales would be 360,000, and we'll multiply it with 100 and divide it by 150. So the cost of sales is 240,000 for the month of September, then same for the month of October, multiply it with 100 and divide it with 150. For the month of November, this would be 260,000. Then for December, this one is 300,000, and for the month of January we have $250,000. Yes. Alright, now we have the cost of sales. Now to calculate the purchases from cost of sales, let's just revise the formula for it. So we can calculate cost of sales by taking the opening inventory, then we add purchases, and then we deduct the closing inventory from that amount. Now we can rearrange this formula and calculate the purchases as well. So purchases would be equals to the cost of sales plus the closing inventories and deducting the opening inventory from this balance. So okay, let's see that if we can find out the closing and opening inventories as well. So in point number 3 and 4, okay, in point number 4 it says that it is the policy of P Limited to maintain an inventory level at the end of each month sufficient to meet 40% of the sales of coming month. So at the end of October, let's say, we shall have 40% of the next month sales. Okay, so over here the closing inventory, so for the month of October we should have 40% of 280,000. 112, then 260,000 into 0.4, this is 104,000, then 300,000 into 0.4, this is 120,000, and 250,000 into 0.4, this is 100,000. Then we'll take the opening inventories. So how to calculate the opening inventory? So simply the closing inventory of the previous month would be the opening inventory of the next month. So we will be deducting this amount of 112,000 in the month of October, then 104,000 in the month of November, and then 120,000 in the month of December, and subsequently 100,000 in the month of January. We are not provided with the data regarding the calculations for January's closing inventory, so we'll assume that there is none in the month of January. So we'll just simply write 0 over there. And now I guess we can calculate the purchases now. So we only need the purchases for the months of November, December and January. So let's just calculate that. 260 plus 120 minus 104, so this comes up to 276,000. Then we have 300 plus 100 minus 120, so we have 280,000. 250 minus 100, so we have 150,000. So these are the purchases for each month. And what does it say about the payments? So it says that all purchases are on credit and P Limited is allowed to pay 2 months after purchase. However, P Limited always pays 1 month after purchase to get a cash discount. Okay, so let's calculate the purchase for the month of October as well. We have 280 plus 104 minus 112. So this comes up to 272,000. Okay. Now regarding the payment over here, let's do calculation over here. So we have the month of November, December and January, and for the payment, so in the month of November we'll be making payments for the purchases of October. So what we'll do over here is that we'll take 272,000 and multiply it with how much? We'll multiply it with 98.5%, as we are getting a 1.5% cash discount. 98.5%. So 267,920. Then for the month of December we'll be making payments for the purchase in November. So the amount is 276,000 multiplied by 98.5. This comes up to 271,860. And then in the month of January we'll be paying for the purchases of 280,000, the purchases of December. So 280,000 multiplied by 98.5.985, so this comes up to 275,800. Okay. Okay, let's write down the cash outflows accordingly. So we have the payments now, and for the month of November we have 267,920. Then in December we have 271,860. And then for January we have 275,800. All of these are our cash outflows, so we'll be deducting these balances. Then further we have some operating expenses as well, and the total of depreciation and other operating expenses is 131,000. So we'll be making a working for this as well. So let's calculate the amount of depreciation. So the cost is $124,000. And the useful life, okay, so we have a rate of depreciation. The rate is 15% per annum. So yearly depreciation should be 124,000 into 0.15. So the whole year's depreciation is 18,600. Yes. And to calculate the monthly depreciation, we'll simply divide this number by 12. So depreciation would be charged as 1,550 per month. About the total operating expenses is we have a total of $131,000 each month. So what we'll do over here is that we'll take 131,000 and we'll deduct 1550 from this amount, because the total of depreciation and operating expenses are at $131,000. Okay, so 131,000 minus 1550, this comes up to 129,450. So this will be our cash outflow as well. Operating expenses of 129,450, 129,450, and same in the month of January as well. Then I think we have incorporated all of the adjustments over here. Now we just have to calculate the closing balances and the opening balances accordingly. So let's calculate the closing balance now. So it should be 95,000 plus 39,000 plus 317,500, 520, minus 267,920 and minus 129,450. So this comes up to 54,150. This will be the opening balance, opening cash balance for the month of December, and then 54,150 plus 45,000 plus 370,440 minus 271,860, 129,450. This comes up to 68,280. Again, this will be the opening balance for the next month, and then 68,280 plus 37,500 plus 343,980 minus 275,800 minus 129,450. So this comes up to 44,510. So in this part we were required to prepare the cash budget for the months of November, December and January. We were provided with the opening balance for the month of November, and then we had to make some adjustments for the sale. Some of the sales were cash sale, some of the sales were credit sales, so we have to make adjustments for that as well. And same, we had to make a working for the calculation of our payments as well. And for operating expenses, one thing that we have to remember is that depreciation being a non-cash expense, we do have to deduct that amount. So I hope you guys were able to understand this, and we'll be working on the next part in the next video. Thank you.